Then we have angles. So before we had opposite rays, which are ones that made a line. Well, if we have rays that are next to each other, like they're combined, they still have the same endpoint, but they aren't necessarily straight. So if this is my endpoint and these are two rays, that forms an angle. So angles formed by two rays, and they have that same endpoint. The endpoint is what we call a vertex, and the rays are the sides of the angle. So, looking at our diagram on the left, it says name the vertex and the sides of angle 1. Here's angle 1. Vertex is the endpoint, that common endpoint where my rays meet. I see that at M is where my rays meet. My sides of my angles are two rays, ML and MN. So my vertex would be point M, and then my sides would be my rays. I have ray ML and ray MN. When we only have one angle, like we do in this example, you can call it angle 1. We can also name angles based on the sides and the vertex. When we do that, we want to make sure that when we use 3 points, we want to make sure our vertex is in the middle. So I could call this angle, that's our sign for angle, and then I can go either way. I can go L, M, N. I can write that one down, M, make sure our vertex is in the middle, L, M, N. Could also go the other way and go N, M, L, just making sure that vertex is in the middle. Now when I only have the one angle like I do here, I can just call it angle M, naming it by our vertex. If you go to the other side, where it says what are other names for angle 6, I can't just call this, notice they all meet at V. I can't call this angle V because I won't know which angle you're talking about. So unlike the last one where we could call it angle M, that doesn't work for this one. You'll notice I have this angle, this angle, this angle, so I can't just call it V. So we're talking about this angle, angle 6. So we're going to name it with our points. Our vertex, where our endpoint meet, is V. My rays, W and X. So kind of like we did last time, in your order, I'm going to start with W, making sure my vertex is in the middle. I can call this angle W, VX, and going the other way, I can call this angle X, V, W. So that's kind of angles. Wrapping it all up, we are almost done. We're going to go through these, make sure that you understand them a little bit better. I know it's been fast. So we're going to name some points. Well, we got lots of points on here. Some of the points I notice are F, point A, C, D, and E. I think those are all the points we have. The lines. You'll notice, backing up, point E is not in our plane. It's kind of like if it was hovering above your piece of paper or your desk or something. That's where E is. So lines. We have 3 different lines. We'll start with the line that contains FAC. I can name it a bunch of different things. I'm just going to go with the first ones I see. I'm going to call it line FA. You could also call it AC, FC, AF, CA, CF, anything like that. Then my next line I have that has points C and D, so I'm going to call that line CB. You could also call it line BC, That is totally fine. And then the last one, the vertical one, goes through points E and A. You can call it line EA, line AE. I'm going to call it, notice this lowercase italicized, I'm going to call it line N. Now our plane. Our planes, remember, have to be 3 non-collinear points, so they can't be on the same line. So, I got point D, C, A. Those are not all on the same line, so I'm going to call it plane D, C, A. Also notice that this B does not have a dot next to it, so it's not a point. That is also what I can call my plane, so I can also call it plane B. Segments. I got tons of segments. My lines I can chop in half, all that. We'll do one per line. So if I look at my line CD, I can say I have segment CD. Remember the segment symbol. If I look at my line FA, I have tons of segments there. Let's go with FC. And my last line, line EA, we'll just chop that in half and say segment EA. So we got segment EA here, we got segment FC here, and segment CB here. Lots of different options. Rays. We need an endpoint and then a continuous line. So again, we're just going to kind of chop some of these lines in half. So if I start at D on this line, what we previously called line BC, if I chop it at D, my ray could go towards C. So I could call it ray DC. If I took my line AE and made my endpoint at A, I have this ray up to E, so I have ray AE. And so on and so forth. I think you guys kind of get the hint. If not, make sure to ask. Angles. I have a couple angles. I'm just going to look at this one right here. That one is made up of my vertex at C and then my rays CA and CD. So the angle I would call that is angle DCA. Remember, we want our vertex in the middle. You could also call it angle ACD. That is totally fine. Collinear points. Co means same, linear means line. So there are points that are on the same line. A lot of times we name 3 of them. The only line that has 3 points is that line FA. So I would say my collinear points are F, A, and C. Coplanar, kind of the same idea. Co meaning same, plane meaning plane. So points that are on the same plane. When we do that, we try to not make them all on the same line. So I wouldn't necessarily write FAC because I don't know if we're talking about collinear or coplanar. So we'll throw in D, because I know D's on that plane too. So D, and then CF. Those are all on that plane B. And then lastly, our opposite rays. Remember, we're going to chop a line in half, and we want rays going both ways. So I think the only line we can do that with is this line FA right here. And like I said before, I like to take the middle point, makes it easiest, and I'm going to make that my end point. So A is my endpoint. I'm gonna go both ways. I got AF. I extends on forever, so ray AF. And then going the opposite way, ray AC. So that is it for your first lesson. You survived. If you have questions, make sure to ask, write them down. Like I said, pause, go through the whole video again if you need to, whatever works best for you.